I think I will call this guy JC. His real name really doesn't matter, but this was, I don't know, maybe 40 years ago. It's been a while. But I was a part of an organization, a national organization that was political slash kind of religious. And in our state, I was designated the state director, and there was a pastor of a very large church who was the chairman. And my responsibility was to go to Washington, D.C., to attend a convention, a conference of the leaders from around the country. And it was kind of a fun experience, but on the way from the hotel to the airport, I mentioned this in a video yesterday, one of the pastors by the name of JC, who was, by all accounts, was a very beloved and respected pastor, wasn't pastor of a big church, but the church in Arizona. Wasn't a small church, Stafford-sized church, and he threw a hissy fit because he had to ride in the back seat on the way from the hotel to the airport. And I thought that was kind of strange. This guy, talk about humus. Well, anytime you get together with a group of pastors, some of these guys are very humble, some of them are very genuine, but a considerable number of them are not. It's kind of like wading waist deep in a cesspool of humus. I mean, it's just arrogance. And apparently he was one of the arrogant ones. But what I didn't understand was, why did people love this guy? Why did they respect him so much? When somebody would mention him, they would say, you know, JC, yeah, he's a good guy. Well, the JC that I came to know was an arrogant, narcissistic jackass. I mean, what kind of a guy complains about riding in the back seat because he thinks he is so important that he should have been allowed to ride in the front seat? And as I mentioned in the video yesterday, I used to do the same thing. I think I was 8 years old at the time because we had a family of 7, and we had a car that that seated 6, which meant 4 of us had to ride in back, and 1 of us got to sit in front. The 5th child got to sit in front. Well, being the youngest of 5, that wasn't my place, because I was kind of small and I fit really nice in the back seat. So sometimes I would throw a hissy fit. Yeah, I want to be the guy who rides in the front seat. But we're talking a middle-aged person. We're talking a guy who is supposed to be mature and a leader. And again, by all accounts, this guy was highly respected and loved. And I'm wondering, how is it conceivably possible? And this, by the way, wasn't the only problem that I saw with this guy. But how is it conceivably possible that this individual could be so popular, have so many friends, have so much support, and yet be over-the-top arrogant, more so than anyone I've ever met? When I was in school, I met, you may or may not know who Jerry Falwell was, but I knew him, didn't know him well, but I knew him. He was one of the most humble people I ever met, insisted that you call him by his first name. He wanted to be on ground level with everyone else, even though he didn't have to be. He could have been a multi-millionaire if he wanted. Then there was this pastor in Jacksonville, Florida. His name was Bob Gray. He's dead and gone. We can mention his name. So he was very popular. People loved him. He built a mega church of, I don't know, several thousand people, and it had a school, has a college, And he was arrested. When he was in his 70s, he was arrested because over the years, apparently, he had been molesting little children in his school. He would have these little girls come to his office and do unspeakable things to them. And some people knew about it because during his tenure as a pastor, they had him move to Germany. I guess he was going to start a ministry in Germany. What they were doing, I think, was trying to cover up his crimes. That's what it seems. And I'm wondering, how is it conceivably possible that a guy that perverse, that guy so arrogant, in my thinking, that was certainly a narcissistic trait, to think he could do that and get away with it, yet he was so loved, he was so popular. People all over the world. I mean, I heard the guy preach one time. I thought he was great. I had no idea. But he was surrounded by this group of supporters. I mean, a massive group of supporters. Same thing we mentioned yesterday, the Reverend Jim Jones with his cult that moved to Guyana, South America. And he wound up murdering his followers. Now, talk about arrogant, that's arrogant. Talk about a narcissist, this is the very image of a narcissist. Why do people follow this guy? I mean, how do they do it? Well, let's make it a little more personal. I've had narcissists in my life who have been abusive, and I'm wondering why it is that people like them. One narcissist in particular, psychopath, narcissist, dark triad, he had friends everywhere we would go. Now, I thought he was my friend, so sometimes we'd go out, eat, whatever, we'd go places together, and wherever we go, people know him. They recognize him. They say hi to him, very friendly. And I recall one time, I think we were in like a McDonald's, and there's some people there. He knew him, walked up to a guy, slapped him on the back, literally, patted him on the back. Very friendly, shook his hand like they were the best friends. But this is a guy he had been trash talking behind his back. And I was wondering, why is it that this guy who is an over-the-top narcissist, who hurts so many people, who has a public record that would just jar you. I mean, he's been prosecuted multiple times, been sued multiple times, been evicted multiple times. How did he have so many friends? Why is it that narcissists have so many friends? I got the answers, I think. This is based on life experience. This is not something that somebody went out and did a test on, a clinical test of some kind, or a survey, or a study. This is a study of life's experience. I call it my life's laboratory. Here's what I came up with. Number one, I've noticed a commonality in these guys, in that they cultivate a cult-like culture. That sounds like a cult, right? They cultivate a cult-like culture around them of friends. They do this intentionally by design. They are personable. They are over-the-top friendly. They understand the charisma. Whether they have it naturally or whether they have to manufacture it, they have charisma that draws people to them, and that is what they want. They do that by design. So they have this body, this massive body of supporters, of people who follow them, or at least like them, people you would call, they would think that they are their friends. The narcissist knows they're not friends to these people, but these people think they are friends. So what is the advantage of doing that? I mean, why does he or she do that? Because we see it all the time. Well, another reason is because they need these friends to prop up their delusion. So first of all, we see that they cultivate it. The reason they have so many friends is because they cultivate that cult-like culture. And secondly, we see because they are propping up their delusions of who they are. Jim Jones did that very thing. He had this amazing, probably amazing is not the best word for it, but he had this incredible self-perception of himself. Or I should say his self-perception was incredible, but he was a mass murderer. He was a con man. Why did people follow this guy? I don't get it. I don't understand. Well, because he wanted to prop up his delusions. And look, I've got all these followers. I've got all these supporters. I've got hundreds, maybe thousands of people showing up at my People's Temple every Sunday. Obviously, I must be doing the right thing. In other words, I'm popular, so what I must be doing is good. As if being popular makes what you do good. So what they do is they make themselves as popular as they can, and their delusions, their self-delusions are supported by these people. Now, I got to say, I understand this because, I befriended these people myself. Some of them, not that guy, but, on a more personal level, I befriended narcissists. I didn't see through it. I didn't understand that I was being used. I didn't understand that I was propping up their delusions, their self-delusions of how grand they are. A third reason they do this is to insulate themselves. It's hard to get to somebody, hard to hurt somebody who has a large body of friends and supporters. You can do it, but it's not easy. We've seen that happen with some of the television preachers back in the 1980s. You may be too young to remember that, but they had huge followers, and then they would do something totally stupid, and their following would diminish greatly. Maybe not disappear, but it would diminish greatly. So they insulate themselves, and they think because they have this huge number of people who are supporting them that nobody can get to them. Get to me, you got to go through my army of friends first. Keeping in mind that narcissists don't care about these people. They could care less about them. Number 4 is they need a source of supply. all these people who were supporting the narcissist, whether it was JC or whether it was Jim Jones, all these people are a source of supply. And the illustration that I like to use, and I've used multiple times in the past, is the chicken coop illustration. The narcissist keeps people like a farmer keeps chickens, because the chickens give him supply of eggs, sometimes meat. So he's got a chicken coop. So a narcissist has this body of friends, and that's his chicken coop. Codependency, because the chickens depend on the farmer. Chickens depend on the farmer for food, water, place to shelter them from the fox. And the narcissist friends, supporters, they have codependency, and then they are depending on the narcissist to supply them with something. Usually it's low self-esteem, or maybe just friendship, or maybe they have a need for love or companionship, nothing wrong with that. But they are depending on the narcissist, not realizing he or she is a narcissist, for that, to meet that need. So it's codependency. Numbers 5 is what I would just call a charismatic draw. The reason they have so many people who are their friends is, we mentioned manufactured charisma, but some of these guys are just naturally likable. They're just very friendly. But if you are charismatic and you are also narcissistic, and those two things come together, you are a natural to abuse people. See those two rectangles on the screen? You want to keep on talking, just click one of those two rectangles and the conversation will continue. If not, thanks for stopping by, and see y'all next time.